Hi, everyone. I'm Serena Mohan, the Director of Public Programming and Events at the Preservation Resource Center. Thank you guys all for being here for this next installment of our virtual Shotgun House Tour 2020 presented by Entablature Design, Build, and Entablature Realty. We are so grateful to all of you for being here and for loving New Orleans historic architecture, but to our sponsors as well. This event would not be possible without them. So in addition to Entablature, we are so lucky to have had the support of the Graham Bell Parker Group of Ladder and Bloom. Not only were the gals of the Graham Bell Parker Group the chairs of this event, so they helped us put together the initial iteration of Shotgun House Tour, and then also figure out with us how to move this to a virtual format. So thank you to Mary Frances, Cecily, and Caroline for making all of this possible. Also, thank you to Louisiane, the official drink of the Shotgun House Tour. I hope that for those of you who have been watching the past few weeks, you have been able to get yourself some of their ready-to-drink sweet tea. It's really fantastic and a wonderful way to support a local New Orleans company. Thank you to New Orleans Architecture Tours, Zangara and Partners, Hamilton Brothers Construction, LLC, iMoto, Shack of Homeless, Southern Animal Foundation, Albert Architecture, Audubon Title Insurance Agency, Crescent Title, Margaret Stewart, Sarah and Doug Stokes, Atomic Architecture, Cypress Building Conservation, Orient Express, and Weeda Loudamy of Hill Riddle Jr. Associates. All of you guys, sponsors, thank you for supporting this tour, many of you year after year. It is amazing how your support really makes the work of the Preservation Resource Center possible. I also, in that vein, want to thank Hancock Whitney, who not only is a sponsor of the Shotgun House Tour and many of the PRC's events, but has also signed on as the first official sponsor of the Preservation Resource Center's Revival Grant Program. The Revival Grant Program is a new program of the Preservation Resource Center where we are able to provide critical home repairs to low to moderate income homeowners in full control historic districts. We launched the program in the Tremaine neighborhood this year in order, and the program has been able to work with homeowners who have violations with the HDLC, the Historic District Landmarks Commission, to bring their homes back into compliance. We at the Preservation Resource Center believe that historic preservation should be for everyone. Our historic neighborhoods benefit all of our residents in this city, and we want to make sure that we are part of making preservation accessible for all residents of New Orleans and making sure that longtime residents are able to stay in their historic homes in historic districts. So thank you to Hancock Whitney for making that possible. And thank you to all of our sponsors and all of our supporters who also help make that possible. Every gift or donation that you make to the Preservation Resource Center contributes to that work, as well as our advocacy work, our education work, all of the free educational programs we've been able to put online this spring, our work to save the historic tax credit and make sure that historic buildings are able to stay standing and are not demolished. All of that work is made possible by our members and our supporters, so thank you. This event is a fundraiser for the Preservation Resource Center. It's one of our signature fundraisers every year, and like so many organizations around the globe, we were not able to hold the event as planned this year due to the pandemic. We are asking for your support as we move this to a virtual format. So please consider making a donation of $25 at prcno.org to support Shotgun House Tour and all of the work that we do. In addition to your support of this particular event, please consider becoming a member. I see many members in the audience here. So thank you to our members. Of course, your support sustains us year after year, day after day. So thank you. If you're not a member yet, please know that not only is that support invaluable to the organization, you also receive our award-winning magazine Preservation in Print to your door throughout the year, as well as discounts on a wide variety of things and exclusive member events. online for now, and hopefully in person at some point in the foreseeable future. In addition, one more way you can support the PRC, we have incredible merchandise that we've been putting together. It's available on our website. We have a particularly current accessory, so we do have masks available if you want to show your love of historic New Orleans architecture every time you leave the house. We also have an incredible coffee table book. If you guys are looking for a gift to give, Building on the Past is a beautiful book, and it also tells the story of New Orleans historic preservation and some of the most incredible buildings that you'll all recognize and love. And you can read the book and find out how they were saved, how they were preserved to be cherished parts of the New Orleans landscape for years to come. Before we get started, I have a quick ad for you. One thing is for sure, the PRC wants to make sure that not only are we supporting New Orleans architecture and showing you how important this is, but that it's fun as well. So we hope you have a cocktail or a tea in hand, whatever your choice is. But in the meantime, I want to quickly show you a little video from our sponsor, Louisiane, on how to make a cocktail using their ready-to-drink sweet tea to inspire you for later tonight or next weekend. So before we get started, we have one more thing. The PRC is so lucky to have this incredible support from our local businesses. So I want to turn over the mic to our team on site at Beth Biundo's house. Beth is also a local business owner, and so this is a part of what the PRC does. We believe in local businesses. They're part of our historic fabric, and so we're going to hear a little bit more about Beth's business. But before we do, Rosie's on the Roof at the Higgins Hotel has been very generous to the PRC as they've opened over the course of the past year. It's an incredible space with a rooftop bar and restaurant, and they have donated a $25 gift certificate that the PRC team is happy to raffle off today. We will be doing this again, so please check PRC's social media to get in on the next raffle, which we'll do in another installment of Shotgun House Tour. But Susan Langenhennig, the Director of Communications for the Preservation Resource Center, is on site at our featured home for the day, and she is going to do the raffle and then get us started with Beth Biundo to view her amazing double shotgun converted to a single, so we can see the, it's a gorgeous space. They'll tour you around it, tell you all about it. So Susan, over to you.
Thank you, Serena. So first we'll do the drawing so that everybody can participate online. This was done, we launched it on social media this week. And if you did not get a chance to enter this week, you can enter next week when we do another one of these. But I took all the names and I put them in this bowl, and I'm just going to draw the winner at random. And the winner is at JHeadInKnowles. I'm going to zoom into it because it's their Instagram handle. And we will be in touch to that person's Instagram and let them know they want a $25 gift certificate to Rosie's on the Roof at the Higgins Hotel, which is an open-air restaurant up on top of the hotel. Okay, so now we're here for the tour, and I want to introduce my friend. We've been longtime friends, Beth Biundo, and this beautiful house is hers. And I've had the pleasure over the years seeing it as she's been renovating it, so it's fun to see it done. So let's talk first. First of all, Beth Biundo, many of y'all know her. She owns an amazing bakery, Beth Biundo Sweets. And I'm gonna give a little plug because I have a terrible sweet tooth and her cakes are the best. So you bought the house in 2007?
2007. It had been somewhat renovated, opened up from a double shotgun to a single. So The layout was similar, but a lot has been done over the years for the finishings. The backyard, bathrooms, kitchen, that sort of thing. So
It was originally a double. I think it was built, what, 1904?
yes.
Around 1904. And when you first moved in, when you first were looking at the house, what struck you?
Well, it was a pretty long process finding it at the time. There wasn't as much on the market, and I kind of had an idea what I wanted. I liked this neighborhood. I've worked in this neighborhood a long time, and like being close to Magazine Street. So I was looking, but it was hard to find something that kind of met all the requirements. There were a lot of bad renovations going on. I had some houses fall through during inspection, so it was a pretty long, frustrating process, and really was down to the wire. I'd given up an apartment and kind of needed to find something, and saw this house listed and decided I wanted it when I saw the floor plan, before I saw a picture.
Just online.
I saw a floor plan and saw that how the fireplace was, the layout, and sort of knew whatever it looked like I could work with it because I liked the layout. And that was right before, I guess, I went to interior design school as sort of a side gig while I was at Lillette. So it coincided with me learning a lot about homes and redoing them, so it worked out well.
Well, so we should probably back up. She was the pastry chef for a Lillette restaurant, and then became an interior designer briefly, and then went back to pastry.
Yes.
So this is like your own case study.
It kind of was.
It kind of was.
This is my long-going interior design project.
Right.
Only one left.
So this fireplace is particularly striking. So when you first walk in, the front door is literally right behind us. And you walk in and it's this open, expansive space, but with this incredibly four-sided fireplace. Do you know a little bit about?
Well, the original house would have gone back to the end of the kitchen, so it was smaller originally. The back is an addition, an early addition, I think mid-century, from what I've heard. And so the house would have been pretty small. This would have been a double, and this would have divided the room. So there would have been 3 rooms, and on either side. So tiny old house on either side. And I guess at one time, 2 families were sharing the same fireplace.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I had not seen any other house with it opened up in this way. So
No.
it's very cool to find an architectural feature like this still standing. And
Very often in double to single conversions, you see them leave the fireplace, but they're just sort of side by side.
I've
Back
seen, yeah, I've
to
never
front.
seen it on the diagonal like
Me
this.
either. And so it's really striking when you come in, and
It also creates a little bit of a division of space that makes it a lot easier to work with a big open space. Sometimes you get a little lost, I think, in such a big space, and this sort of creates rooms without losing the sense of openness. So
well, that is one of the challenges of these open concept floor plans, especially with double to single conversions, because you end up taking what was like multiple parlors, like you said, and creating this like ginormous space. Well, how do you make it into a dining room and a living room and in a casual space that feels comfortable for the way we live today? So I've always enjoyed the way you've got this laid out, and I've seen you move things around.
yeah, for
Over
a
the
while,
years.
the furniture was moved every couple of years. And kind of tried different plans, and this one has been the longest. I like the layout, I like the way it works. It's very user friendly for how I live. So I think we're sticking with this one for a while.
Well, so when you first moved in, you did one phase of a renovation. What did you do then?
Initially, actually, nothing was done for a couple of years. The house had been renovated about 2 years before I bought it. Very simply, it had been opened up. Luckily, HVAC, shoring, everything was done, and so that was, luckily didn't have to spend money on the not fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That was all done very well. The finishings, though, were just a little average, and kind of would be a little dated right now. There were kind of beigey cabinets and granite countertops, and the floor was just polyed, so it was pretty warm. there weren't any built-in, so there wasn't a lot of storage, and the bathrooms and kitchen were pretty basic. So,
Well, so then you put in this.
I did the first thing I did was to add this wall of storage in the back with built-in bookcases. I had so little storage in the house. This was a nice way to fill the space, and hide a lot of cords, have a TV without hanging it on the wall, keep all my books, display things. So this kind of set the tone for the layout of this room.
Was this open like this, or did you open it more?
No, this was open when I purchased it. So they opened it during the renovation 2 years before.
Yeah. Because it gives a really nice, it does create kind of a private space. Yeah. Even though it's not, even though it's still open.
Someone recommended taking down this fireplace for more openness. I do like how the space is broken up a little bit. It keeps the kitchen a little bit separate. So sticking with that, and I like having the original fireplace there as well.
And the brick kind of gives it echo a little.
It does, and I think it warms it up a little. I mean, my stuff is a little more modern, so I like the contrast.
You originally had the dining table over there.
Yes.
And then moved it back, and you could see Sally, her adorable family.
Sally's taking a nap during our tour, as she does most of her time. She's not even noticing.
Adorable.
And yeah, this, I like the dining table by the kitchen. I tried to create sort of more of a secluded dining area, and it just isn't practical, and I felt like I didn't use the table. As is, I use it a lot, and it's nice to actually sit at a dining table rather than in front of the TV or something. And during the pandemic, I have been cooking quite a bit, like many people, and a little bit obsessed with setting the table every night. So I'm in full fine china mode and nice dinners. So.
What is your china? It's so pretty. What is that on?
I forgot the name.
It's all right. I just haven't seen it. It's really pretty.
But yeah, it's been nice to make use of my house actually over the past few months and enjoy the layout as it is.
Mm-hmm. No, it feels like this really works even when you've had parties, because people can be sitting here. Everybody wants to congregate in the kitchen anyway, and so, but then it still gives them a dining area where you can sit down and eat.
I think unlike a lot of people, I'm not the biggest island fan. I think I don't love people cooking with me in the kitchen, probably because it's what I do at work and I like to just sort of cook on my own. So this, I can see and talk to everyone without them over my shoulder. So.
Tell me about this piece. I love this piece.
This is, I actually got it Renaissance at Metairie. It is.
That is like the best Renaissance font.
I know, because it's so hit or miss, but it's an Art Deco, they told me dental cabinet or some kind of, it's metal.
The whole thing?
The whole thing. Wow. Some kind of like industrial cabinet from the Art Deco period. And it just, I don't know if it was repainted or this was the original paint. This is the patina it has, the top's copper. It's just so unique. I haven't seen anything like it. I tried to do a little research on something similar. Yeah, it's great. I have all my dining stuff stored in here and use it for a little bar. And
you didn't have to do any restoration of it, did you?
No, I found it like this, and I don't know how it would have been originally. I have not been able to find a lot of information on it, and I do normally try to do that. But
it's really cool.
Yeah, the majority of my pieces, I think, I do like things that are vintage or unique. I mean, they're mixed in, of course, with some new things. But
what about this piece of?
A good friend of mine did this. It's been everywhere I've lived, probably since about 2002. He's a friend in New York, Scott Vandervoort, and he's an artist. And we had both lived in Rome, so he did this drawing of Rome for me. And it's enormously heavy, and I've moved it from New York to various apartments, and it's a very cool piece that I like a lot. So
a lot of your art came from New York when you lived there, correct?
A lot of it did. I did work in galleries for a while, so I had friends who had, gave me some pieces. I haven't spent a ton of money investing in art, but a lot of what I do have is friends' pieces that they've done or given me. So
This chair that was in the
This
family,
was my
right?
grandmother's. She was the biggest fan of wicker and that sort of look, so had to have that.
That's like the best find. So that is true mid-century.
Yes, definitely. She had quite a few of these. I think they were, they got distributed through my million cousins, so I got one, but it works there.
Yeah. Well, so one of the bigger renovations that you've done in recent years is the kitchen, right?
Yes.
What did the kitchen look like when you said it had like cabinetry and
it had brown granite countertops. It had sort of basic, a little more traditional painted cabinetry. And the big renovation that I did was about 5 years ago. I'd been in the house maybe 5-6 years at the time. Hadn't done anything major, and it was I'm glad I waited because then I knew what I wanted. But did the kitchen and the master bath in the backyard, which we'll see later. This was brown granite. These were sort of beige wood,
but the layout was roughly the same.
I did keep the layout for the most part. I removed a window here, which just looked into the neighbor's side house and kind of. It sort of messed up the storage and the sink, so I just removed that. And
were these windows up here?
These were added during the first renovation before I lived here. I mean,
it's nice. They give a lot of light.
They do give a lot of light. Like many shotguns were a little boxed in, so you don't get a lot of light from the sides. I get a lot of light in the back of my house, but these add some in the front as well.
Without being just a view of the fence on the side of the neighbor's house.
With any house that's long and narrow, and all the houses around us are long and narrow, you don't get great views always. So that is nice about that. But yeah, for this, I designed the cabinets a little bit more user-friendly. There's a lot of pull-outs and things that are more practical, a little bit of pantry storage that I didn't have before, but otherwise pretty much the same. It was more cosmetic, and it was really based. I found this marble locally and fell in love with it and designed the whole thing around that. It's a marble I hadn't seen with this sort of dark gray. It almost looks like a soapstone, but it is marble, and really just loved it.
And the backsplash. Having it be uniform as all one is really beautiful.
Yeah, it took 2 slabs to do that. That was about that, so it was great to find them. And I wanted that continuous look. Since the kitchen is so open to the rest of the house, I like to make it look a little less functional and a little bit prettier. And then the cabinets are just IKEA. That was sort of the budget part of the project to fund the marble. But I've actually been really happy with them, and I think the key to that was having a very good contractor who can customize them. There's a lot of little hacks like this over the stove, over the sink, that were not sort of IKEA done, but he built out, and there's just enclosing the refrigerator and things like that. That made the difference and made it look a little more custom without spending so much money.
Being a professional chef, were there any things that you were just like, I have to have this in a kitchen, or are you just not that fussy in your personal
I'm
kitchen?
probably less fussy because I do all of my baking at work, and I don't really have to do a lot here. I mean, if I'm going to bake, I usually do it there. So this is really entertaining and cooking dinner. So I have the basics, and I have a nice workspace, and other than that, not super fussy.
No,
I think, chefs have had to work in every kind of environment through various jobs, so I could make most kitchens work.
Right. I mean, some of these restaurant kitchens are the size of that space.
Exactly.
This really feels luxurious. Tell me about the light fixture. I love that light fixture.
This was the first thing I bought. It sat in a crate for about 8 months in the living room before I could get the whole renovation done. It is a mid-century Italian piece that I believe I found on First Dibs. Just from looking around and finding it at an affordable price. It was a little bit of a splurge. But yeah, it's a chrome, I think 60s Italian. So
it's beautiful.
Yeah, it definitely, I mean, since you see it when you walk in the house, to me, it's definitely a splurge that was worth it. So.
Well, what's beautiful about what you've done here is that it still does have a lot of the architectural, historical architectural pieces like the fireplace, but it's a very modern feel on the inside. Like you don't have other pendant lights really hanging anywhere. It's just the safe and decent kitchen, which lets the furniture and art kind of take center stage. So.
Yeah, and I mean, my taste definitely runs more modern, but I do appreciate the elements. So
Yeah.
I think the furniture stands out more because of the contrast. So.
Speaking about making the furniture stand out, so these floors are incredible. I hope everybody can see them well online because the floors were not like this when I first came to your house. These are the original.
As far as I know, they were the original floors. They're white plank pine. I mean, there would have been in here. They may, I don't have, not 100%, but they may have been filled in places, but I do think they're original. They were pretty typical uptown orange. So they were, pine with poly on them, which is super warm, and they were very pretty floors. I did feel like sometimes they were a little hard to work with and picking paint colors and things because everything looked a little yellow. Mm-hmm. And I very much like this pickled look on the floors. So that was my most recent and last project about 10 months ago. I moved all the furniture out. I moved out of the house for 2 weeks and had them done. They were sanded, bleached, stained. It's a little extra step to bleach and get the warmth out. And definitely the biggest thing that I've done, they make such a huge difference. I think all the furniture pops kind of changed the tone of the whole house. So
it dramatically changed. You don't even realize how
shocked.
Yeah, I mean, so much of the wood floors that we see, and even in my own home, they do have that very warm. It's like a honey brown blending toward orange in the coloring of them because of the pine, and we're also used to that. That you almost don't realize it until you take it away, how much of a difference the color makes. I mean, your furniture just pops off of it, like the table just pops off of it.
And it was a little bit of a challenge getting them exactly how I wanted them. My floor guy's a saint.
Well, who is he? Tell us about him, because I mean, people are always looking for.
It's Dwayne Bro from Floor Masters. I interviewed a few people, and I think he kind of got what I was looking for, and had me to look at many color samples as they stained it in places. We kind of custom mixed this, and as I talked to him, every floor project, because you have to work with the wood you have, can be a little different. You can't always predict the results, so it is always a work in progress.
How many color iterations did you go through?
Well, we really just did it in a little spot by the front, so it wasn't the whole floor. But I think it was probably quite a few.
To get it right.
And I didn't want a very country whitewashed look. I didn't want them too white. I didn't want them too pink. So
right, it's hard.
It's sort of hard to say what you do want.
Right.
Say what I didn't want. And I think we kind of spoke the same language, and so we got it without too many tries. And then the first time I opened the door and saw them, I was blown away. So.
Well, what's so incredible about them is that you never see this detail of the graining.
Yes.
Until they are stripped like this.
It definitely makes you appreciate the
wood. Now the finish on this is not totally matte.
It's not.
It looks it.
This is sort of I think he said semi-gloss. It's sort of the middle range. It does not look particularly shiny, but it's also not a totally matte finish. Would sort of have the look, a more rustic look of like a barn floor. I wanted, something a little more modern and less rustic than that, but not super glossy. So this was a good middle ground.
Also with a pet, having it be completely matte, you would have toenail scratches. I know from experience.
Actually, it is nice that mostly white-haired dog do not see the white fur quite as much on these. So I'm always surprised when I see
like my dog who used to like tumbleweeds of fur.
It hides it a little bit. So.
Well, they are incredible. Like the difference in the house is remarkable. I wish we could show some before and afters.
Yeah, it was so surprising. The effect. So this little den area, which we can talk about now, has had a lot of furniture changes when we first moved in. Because it was the casual space, it was sort of the repository for old furniture. And so this is probably the only area where everything has been purchased since I bought the house, because I tend to buy things and keep them forever. And after struggling with having a dog on cloth sofas, I finally went with this white leather sofa, which was a huge splurge. And my favorite one, this was from Design Within Reach, when we still had the store, I believe, a magazine. And whitish leather seems incredibly impractical, but it's actually great. It doesn't show anything. It's easy to clean, and I've been super happy with it. I mean, I destroyed couches with heads. So I didn't want a big, heavy, like dark leather sofa, so this was a nice alternative.
You and I had talked about this because
For years.
we also have dogs, and you wouldn't think leather would be good for dogs, but it really is, because the hair just gets
it's
into
durable, and the hair doesn't cling, so, and you can wipe them down with some leather cleaner.
This table,
This is
had some history to it, right?
This I've had for a million years. It's a French farmhouse table. It's kind of extra narrow, which is why it functions well as this sofa table / desk, because this is where I will tend to work, since I don't have to do a lot of desk work, and I don't like a desk sort of against the wall. This I've set up, this was my New York dining table in my tiny little New York apartment, because it was so narrow that I got at ABC in New York a million years ago, and it's been moved around too, through many places. It's definitely a little bit more rustic piece, but it's great. Everyone loves it. And if I have any kind of projects, I mean, I can see there's glitter like in my table to do projects as well.
It's all good. New Orleans houses have glitter.
Can't be ruined.
There's a lot of Moroccan touches up here.
There are.
Like this blanket.
Yes, I have.
From Morocco.
Those we sold in the bakery for a while.
Yeah.
I do love to travel, and have sort of taken advantage of that by bringing back some treasures and selling them at times in the bakery as well. Unfortunately, not for a while now. This summer, we were not able to do that, but I've gone to Morocco several times, twice to Marrakesh in the last 3 years for shopping trips. And
Your little bag over here.
yes, those are so fun. And so I really love it there, and you definitely have some great finds. And I had a guy who would ship me stuff back, and so hopefully one day we can do that again.
I know, hopefully. Well, should we move back to my favorite room in your house, which is the back, which opens to her gorgeous backyard pool.
So then this is the addition, which we don't know when this was added, but this was not original to the house. So the ceilings are just a little bit lower. And this is the master bedroom, which is actually the width of the house. It's extremely spacious, and has a bathroom off of it, and opens to the backyard, which is really nice. And part of the big renovation I did 5 years ago, added the pool, redesigned the entire backyard. And that was probably the renovation I like most, because I spend a lot of time out there in the pool.
Well, before we talk about the backyard, let's talk about this incredible bathroom.
Okay.
Tell us about what your inspiration was for this bathroom.
Well, the renovation really was functional before anything. The bathroom is a nice size, but it had a huge jacuzzi tub, a toilet right when you walked in, and a single pedestal sink, no storage. So it just wasn't very user-friendly, and if I was gonna redo it, I figured I'd make it really cool. And I don't take baths, I wanted a huge walk-in shower, so was able to design that, a closed toilet room, a double vanity, and add a little storage. The design for the shower, which is the most distinctive feature, was actually taken from a bathroom I saw in a magazine from Tangier, and it's Syrian inspired. So was able to kind of do an inspiration of it. And it's basically just 12 by 12 tiles cut in half and striped. So
What is the, it's marble?
it's marble, it's black, it's just Carrara marble and black marble tiles, which were relatively inexpensive. I had a really great tile guy, which made all the difference. And he cut them in half and he just did a perfect job in installing them. And this could have been a disaster with a bad installation, and it really came out amazing. So
Who was your tile guy?
I Pieri Marble and Stone did actually the kitchen and the bathroom, and it was one of their tile guys who did the installation. And I've used them on a lot of projects. They did some work in the bakery, and when I met them when I was working in interior design.
And then you created the little toilet alcove so that it
Yes.
makes it a little less like in your face.
Yeah, you can close it off, and it's less prominent. So.
No, it's beautiful. Do you love it every day?
I love it every day. I love the open shower. A lot of people's question is, does water come out? And if you design it well, it's deep enough and the right width, it does not. So you can just walk in and take a shower and the water stays in.
There's a drain
And
back toward the.
I do love the drain in the back. It's a tiled in drain, so you almost can't see it. And that was a suggestion of my contractor, and I think it's great. And it was very inexpensive. It's beautiful.
It feels luxurious just in the shower. You think.
It almost feels like an outdoor shower being open, which I like. Should I open?
Yes.
And luckily, our torrential downpour about an hour ago stopped. And you can see the outside, which is 100% my favorite part of the house. Spending more time at home during the pandemic, this has been a lifesaver. The backyard had no protection from the sun when I first moved in. It was just a little bricked-in patio with a lot of heavily manicured bushes and things, almost like a formal English garden.
Yeah, I was gonna say almost like a parterre-ish kind of feeling.
Which it was pretty, but I just didn't use it, and it was very hot, and so.
And a lot of work.
Yes, to maintain it. So 5 years ago, I ripped everything out. I drew the plans on this because I knew exactly what I wanted, and put in this small pool. I wanted all tropicals, the cabana, and that is my favorite place to hang out with me, hang out with friends.
And the pool is, how deep is it?
It's 4.5 feet, and it's 7 by 14. So not huge, but I think for adults just hanging out inside, it's not hard to maintain. And I think.
Sorry, can I interrupt you, Beth, really quickly? The sound has gotten a little bit muffled since you guys have gone outside, so it might be better to have the camera on Beth so that we can hear what she's talking about a little bit.
I think it's a good example of that you can put a pool in a really small space. A lot of people here do not have huge backyards behind shotguns. And I have equipment, I have a heater and chiller, I have my AC back here, but if you draw carefully and kind of really lay things out well, you can fit a pool in a small backyard.
No, it's remarkable. And it's the perfect pool for just sitting there with a cocktail. It's a cocktail pool.
It's pretty much
you're not doing laps in it. That's not the purpose. But it creates this really lush setting. And tell us about the day bed. That was sort of something you had conceived.
That, it's very Balinese inspired, and I really just wanted the space to be kind of a grown-up loungy space. And I looked, outdoor furniture can be so expensive, and I looked at things online, and then I just realized all I wanted was sort of cushion on a big bed. So I had just drew it out from my carpenter and built this basically a wood box very inexpensively and ordered a custom cushion, which I just modeled up the dimensions of a king size bed. So to make up size, and then we built the cabana around it.
So that's king size.
That's king size.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it does provide protection from the sun, which during certain parts of the day, it can get a little hot out there. Luckily, we have a lot of greenery around, so it's very private and it tends to be a little bit shaded, which keeps the pool from getting too hot.
That bird of paradise is incredible.
It is, and in that big freeze we had maybe 3 years ago, it was down to a tiny stump, and I did not think it would ever come back, and it's about 10 feet tall now.
Maybe a gobbler.
Yeah, I didn't expect everything to grow so well. It's growing out of its spaces. So.
And your mom helped you with that? Your mom's a master gardener.
My mother is a very prolific gardener. She volunteers at the Botanical Garden City Park, and I don't know if a tropical garden would be her thing, but she's willing to help me on mine. So she gives me a lot of advice and a lot of weeding help, and I do not have a green thumb, so this is through no help of my own.
It is also amazing to me that you can fit that big of plants, again, in such a small space. And it gives it kind of a real, like, secluded, cozy feel.
Yeah, when I look back at pictures from when the pool was first built, everything had just gone in. It's such a different look, and I'm glad I kind of crowded things in a little bit and also gave them time to grow and fill.
I love the color of the bottom of the pool.
That's one of my favorite decisions, going dark. And a lot of people advise me against that in such a small pool, but there's enough shade that it does stay pretty cool, and I just love to look at it. And at night, it's very pretty as well. So
Having the light on. So you,
Beth, we do have a question about the material of the pool. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And then also someone's asking how you got the equipment back there to dig the pool.
That's interesting on both ends. The pool is just a regular plaster in dark gray. The tile right around the edge is slate. The coping is it bluestone? Is that what it's called?
It's slate, but they call it bluestone, right?
Well, the top is bluestone. Coping is bluestone. The slate is just around the inside of the pool, and then the deck is just pine. That's probably something I would consider again, because it is a lot of maintenance, and our climate requires a lot of refinishing. How they got the equipment back, my pool guy had a digger that was 25 inches wide. The sides of my house are 28 inches. So they just barely got it back. I had 2 guys tell me they were gonna have to hand dig it, which adds $5,000 to $10,000 to the project and a lot of time. Luckily, I found someone with a really narrow digger. They took the gutters off the house, took the fence posts off, and they took the door down in the bedroom to carry the heater in because it couldn't fit down the side. So
wow.
It barely got dug.
And they like wheelbarrowed everything out individually.
Yes.
Wow.
They did the whole thing in one day though. So
Incredible.
Yeah.
Who is your pool company?
Juxtaposed pools.
You came up with the stain for the deck after much mixing as well.
Yes, which is not fresh, so you can't quite get the effect. But I was trying to get sort of a neutral pool stain, deck stain, and again, it's pine, so getting the yellow out was key. And this took, I can't even tell you how many. Gray and deck stain apparently goes very purple. So after multiple purple decks, we got this right. They were very nice of Benjamin Moore to indulge me quite a bit.
And it's the same color on
It is.
on all the trim as well.
So
it keeps it
it
really
just
uniform.
wears a little bit differently on the ground.
Right.
It's just kind of neutral, and I like it. It kind of goes with the back of the house, which you can see here, but it all blends together. So.
And also with such a small space makes it all feel more expansive versus having different color tones breaking it all up in different places.
It focuses on the pool, the plants, everything, rather than the deck.
I mean, did you ever think, we never would have thought about a pandemic, but having a pool during the pandemic,
it's a lifesaver.
Yeah, I mean, literally.
I feel like pool guides are going to get very busy in the next 6 months. It gives you a place to be outside when you're stuck in your house, and a little activity, and it's a little, if you're having people over socially distanced, this is really nice. You can hang out at the table, someone can hang out in the cabana, someone can be in the pool, you feel safe. So definitely looking at our houses a little bit differently.
I feel like I kind of want to renovate my whole house after being in it now for many months, stuck in it.
Yes, I think everyone's noticing what they like and don't like.
Well, do we have any other questions?
Yep, we have two more questions just about this backspace, and then I think we should go inside because the video quality is a little bit better when we're toward the front of the house. But I know you mentioned the dimensions of the pool. Can you repeat the dimensions of the pool and also share, if you have them, the dimensions of the backyard?
The pool is 7 feet by 14 feet. I cannot remember exactly the dimensions. The garden is 3 feet off the pool. I think it's about 28 feet, but I could be wrong on that. I would have to look it up. It's not big. I know that. This makes it feel much, much bigger. I was shocked when I was able to work this out. It kind of seemed like a pipe dream until I really just sat down with an architect's rule and a piece of paper and drew 50 different combinations to get this. Should we walk up to the front?
Yeah, and while we're walking, someone's asking if the only access to the back deck is through the house or if there's any other way to access it.
You could walk down the side of the house, yes. So if I, for some reason, did not, it's relatively narrow, but yes, you can come down the side of the house. If I need it worked on or anything, I can leave gates open so people can access, or if you want to have an event, you did want people to walk through the house, yes. But it is, I don't mind people walking through the bedroom, but usually that's what my friends do. I don't make them go down the side, so everyone has seen my bedroom many times. So should we go to the front?
Yes, that would be great. And we do have a few questions coming in. As they make their way to the front of the house, if anyone has any questions, please do type them in the Q&A. We're going to try to answer as many as we can in the next 10 minutes or so. So we've gotten some sort of practical questions. If you guys can talk a little bit more about this, I think a few people would be interested in if you replaced any windows or added any insulation. Can you talk us through that process and what decisions you made in that regard?
Luckily, I have not had to do any of that. The original renovation 2 years before I moved in was very good in that regard. My inspector, who had just sort of cut me off of buying a house that was cosmetically nice, but not well insulated, the air conditioning had issues, said it was extremely rare that you saw one done this well. So that was very lucky. Haven't had to touch the insulation, AC, roof, any of that, knock on wood. I have not changed any windows. I put in solar panels, but that was the only sort of thing like that I've had to do.
Are your windows functional?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I don't open them much.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
I open up the back of the house up here. It is close to the street. That's one thing that you see. So if it was more set back, I might open it up, but it feels like very close to the front.
Right. So the privacy of it.
Yeah. So the windows pretty much stay covered up here.
Beth, a few people have asked about the floor plan of the house. So we've seen the one bedroom, and you certainly don't need to show us the other bedrooms, but can you describe the floor plan of what would be, I guess, behind where you're sitting now?
Yes, absolutely. So when we walked down that long hall to the back of the house, we didn't shoot there today because it is a little dark and it was hard to get it on camera, but there are 2 more bedrooms, 1 more bathroom, and a laundry room off that hall. So it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. So I do have a guest room and guest bath along that hall. So they're a little separated, and then an office, and then a smallish laundry room, and sort of utility room. So it's a nice size. The house is, I think, 1,970 square feet, so just under 2,000.
Which is a great size.
It's a perfect size. For one person, it's a great size.
But even for a couple.
For a couple,
If you had a family of 4, you might
Yeah.
want a little more room, but
But it is so open that it feels very big.
Mhm.
And the bedrooms are not all obviously as big as the master bedroom, but they're like a sort of standard size. And it's actually kind of nice. They are a little darker, but they're a great place to get a good night's sleep. So,
Right. Well, it's the darkness is probably because of the way,
because the
again,
houses are quite
we're all
close
right next door to each other.
So,
Even the windows, you don't
you
get a
don't-
lot of sun.
exactly. And there aren't any two-story houses directly around me, so that's kind of nice. A lot of these shotguns have been camelbacked, and so I would feel a little bit like I had neighbors looking right into the yard with a pool, and so it is nice that there's none around me. So hopefully that stays.
No, no.
Beth, we're getting a few questions about some of the vendors or contractors that you might have worked with. We've had a specific question about who your home inspector was and also who did your cabinets in the kitchen.
My home inspector I would have to look up because that was 12 years ago. I could let y'all know if you want. But he was extremely thorough, and I've recommended him to a few other people. My contractor, I actually found through Pierre Marble, who are really nice people who I've worked with for a long time from working in interior design. And I sort of project managed it. He did it with one other guy. He did the entire renovation. He is now retired. I think this was his last hurrah. But I did not use like a large contracting company. It was just one person with an assistant. He was very experienced and had done projects for years. And because I was drawing the plans on, I drew the plans on everything, bathroom, backyard, kitchen. So we were just kind of working together. And I was very hands-on. Luckily at that time I had the time to do that. Probably not the best solution for someone who maybe doesn't have any experience doing houses or the time, because it was a considerable amount of time. So
The sliding glass doors were already there. So it wasn't like you had to open the back to.
No.
Right.
No. That was there. That open feel was like another thing that really sold me on the house. It did, it was an old house, but it had a lot of modern features from the first renovation. So, I was lucky that even though it wasn't exactly what I wanted, it was a pretty good shell to be moving into. And I knew eventually I would get it to what I wanted. Still have a few things I'd like to work on, of course. The guest bathroom has not been renovated, and I'd love to do that. I'd love to do some practical stuff like a tankless water heater and things. So those are kind of, I'm getting down to the nitty-gritty now.
But you've checked off the main.
Checked off a lot of things. And I mean, it's some people like their house to be just done the day they move in or pretty quickly. I'm glad that it took so long because I probably would have made choices 10 years ago that I wouldn't make now. And I probably would have made choices, having not lived in it very long, that I wouldn't make now. Now I sort of know what's needed, how I use the space, what's necessary, what isn't. So sometimes, living with a bad piece of furniture for a while or whatever isn't such a bad thing.
I know it's painful, but you do really learn what you want versus what you don't want. And, a lot of houses with sort of more formal spaces don't ever use them. You really use all of these.
I really do, and that's nice. And it's, it's evolved over time, and that's sort of placing the furniture has been so every space gets used. And I really do at various points use all the spaces. So that's been really nice.
I mean, it also just feels like you're really engaging the house. I go into a lot of houses and you really feel like some rooms are just sort of show. And that's it, like no one ever actually sits in them.
Absolutely.
Really being able to use and enjoy all
And
these
it's
spaces.
not really, it's a nice size house. It's not big enough to have wasted space.
Right.
So I could, but it's nice to have like everything really have a function. So it's for me, I think this layout is sort of the last layout. But
Yeah,
we'll see.
that's right.
Beth, a couple of people, I know you mentioned the square footage of the house. Can you repeat that? A few people are asking, and they seem to have missed that.
It's 1970, 1,970. So.
And what's your ceiling height?
It is 11.5 in the front, and I believe 9 or 10 in the back. I think 10, maybe 9. 9. So.
So we are having a few questions about paint, which is always a hot topic, colors and finishes. So I know we talked a little bit about the pergola and the deck stain in the back, but can you tell us about what product you used back there, and if that is a product that you would recommend, and also the white that you have throughout the house? Can you share with us if you remember the color and the finish on that?
I remember all the colors. I am very big into paints, so painting. Everything is Benjamin Moore. I think they do a really good job at home paint. Everything is from them. It's actually some different whites. The front of the house doesn't get as much light, and so colors, especially this was painted before the floors were done. So especially then, it went very warm up here, and everything looked very yellow. So this is decorator white in the front. It's a pretty cool, almost gray white, which doesn't look it up here because there is a lot of warmth to everything in the house. The bedroom, because it gets so much sunlight, it looked really clinical and stark. So that's White Dove, which is a pretty simple one. The bathroom, I believe, is decorator white as well, and the spaces that don't have the stone. The deck stain is Benjamin Moore. It's a custom mix that is just every color mixed together to get the right one. And then, yeah, that's pretty much all of them.
It's easy when you keep it consistent throughout the house.
Yeah.
So then it makes it easy.
It doesn't always work though, especially with whites.
Right.
They look different in every room. I really enjoy picking paints, so it's I think it's fun, and I'll go buy 5 samples and try them out.
It's remarkable how many different whites. In our house, we have marshmallow white, which is it's actually a Sherman-Williams color. And I had it in a bunch of spaces and really loved it because it was actually kind of it's white, but it had a little bit of a creamy tone to it. Mm-hmm. And then we used it in another room and it looks terrible. Yeah. And I walked in and I was like, oh my goodness, you need to repaint this whole room. My contractor wanted to kill me.
I mean, the wrong white will definitely make a room look dark or dingy. So
yeah,
just have to stick with it until you find the right one.
So the deck is a real point of interest. We're getting a lot more questions about that as well. Practically speaking, I think you said you put the deck in about 5 years ago. How is the material on the deck holding up and working in this climate?
The material's holding up. The stain does not tend to hold up as well. And I need to get it done again. I noticed that. The first round lasted 3 years. I did this 2 years ago. I feel like the second time didn't hold up as long. I don't know if it's because we've had more rain or because it was the second application. I think I'm gonna have to strip it down to basic and start from scratch on the color. There are some woods that you don't have to stain, like Ipe, some of those Brazilian woods, they cost a lot more, but I probably looking back can see how that could be a really worthy investment because you don't have to do the maintenance. Mm-hmm. And in our climate, it's gonna get a lot of rain, it's gonna get a lot of heat. And the wood itself, it's not rotting. I haven't had that problem, but just in the stain adhering, it starts to peel.
We had the same experience. We were putting in a deck the same time she was, and it's also pine. And it was a budgetary consideration because eBay was exponentially
it's
more expensive.
And if you can think of it over the life of the deck, it probably is cost effective.
Right, when you're putting it in.
But you can't always think about that at the time. So there might be something though in this climate to consider if you are putting in a decorative.
Right.
But the thing about deck versus stone, I would say, is the heat is it's much less hot, and I like that. So.
Yeah, when we get out of our pool, you can walk barefoot,
exactly.
Whereas a lot of stone, unless you put in the stones that are cool touch, which again is a budgetary consideration, can be really hot around the pool.
And it's a different look.
It is a different look.
So we are right up at 5 o'clock, so we're going to need to wrap this up soon. But I wanted to ask one more question. You talked a little bit about your business at the beginning, but I think some people have asked a little bit more about that. So would you be willing to tell people a little bit more about your business and how they might
Absolutely.
buy some of your products if you're open to it?
3-year anniversary.
Yesterday was the 3-year anniversary of the bakery, which is very exciting, especially right now when things have been a little scary. The bakery is at 3917 Barone Street, right by Martin Wine Cellar uptown, if you know where that is. And currently we are doing pre-order only. During COVID, I decided we switched to all delivery when we were in full lockdown, which was really lucky that we got a lot of support with that. And you know, it was a time when people wanted to send treats to their friends and they couldn't visit them in person. So, and now we've moved to where we do delivery. We mostly do pickup, and it's all pre-order right now. So we don't have a retail where you can walk up, but you can call us or go online and order and then pick up. We recommend about 3 days in advance to place an order. The website is bethbiundosweets.com, or you can call 899-8059 during our business hours, which are Tuesday to Friday, 10 to 3, Saturday, 10 to 1, and place an order. But almost all of our items available are listed on the website, so that's the best place to kind of get an introduction. And we are kind of known for cakes, layer cakes, special occasion cakes, wedding cakes, for a time when people have weddings again. And we do a lot of cookies, tarts, seasonal things. Our pound cakes are really popular gift items. At the holidays, we do a ton of those. And we do offer very limited ice cream, which is popular. And we sort of have a limited amount every week and sells out. So you kind of have to just call and check on that and see what we have. I try to, Instagram is probably the best place though to keep up with our current items and seasonal items and then see the designs of what we do.
Well, her design aesthetic you've seen in the house also carries over to the bakery. In fact, my favorite cake that you make is the succulent cake.
That is a very popular one. We do all buttercream cakes. I like that for the flavor versus like a fondant cake. And so we do a lot of floral cakes, which I think are really fun. Where the entire top of the cake is decorated with either a large single flower and buttercream, or we do a whole cake that looks like a pot of succulents. Those definitely can be seen on Instagram, but do another popular one that's a giant dahlia. So those are a lot of fun to do, and people really like those.
All right, well, we are at 5 o'clock, so I don't want to hold you up. Thank you so much, Beth, for doing this. Your house is incredible. We're so lucky to have seen it, and thanks for doing such a thoughtful renovation and taking such good care of it.
Thank you all.
All right, bye, everyone.
Thank you.